going to call the meeting to order for the planning board for October 29th. If you'll all stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Adequate notice of the meeting of the Old Bridge Township Planning Board has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of the meeting. Promptly posting in the municipal complex an announcement giving the date, time, location, and agenda of this meeting. 2, mailing such announcement to the home news and Tribune, and filing a copy of such announcement with the municipal clerk. Mr. Berwick.
Yes.
Mr. Abbas.
Here.
Mr. Lowry.
Here.
Mr. Mack.
Here.
Mr. Schmidt. Here. Mr. Lane. Here. Mr. Fink. Here. Chairman McCann.
Here. Okay, we have a completeness waiver, which our attorney's going to talk about.
Yes, if you'll, members, if you didn't recheck the Novus agenda system, this is on the agenda, on the electronic version, but the copy that was handed out at the meeting this evening didn't get updated to include it. So this is a completeness waiver, 18-19P for K. Hovnanian and Old Bridge LLC, Block 13326, Lot 1, proposing to subdivide the detention basin and create an open space lot in the R20 zone, and they're requesting completeness waivers for the purpose of coming in front of the minor subdivision committee. That's
Okay, Vina, did you have anything to add to that?
Development, and it's an open space lot, Lot 1. The applicant is proposing to subdivide it. The existing lot has recreational facilities and a detention basin. So with the proposed subdivision, one lot would contain the detention basin while the other lot would have the recreational facilities. They're not proposing to do any site work at this time. So I'm okay recommending all the waivers except for one, because this goes in front of the minor subdivision committee. So I recommend that they add a line in the title block for the minor subdivision committee to sign off.
Okay. So we just take a vote on
just
that?
a vote.
Could I just
Sure.
place
Yes.
an appearance on the record? Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Peter Klauser. I'm an attorney with the firm Heilbrunn Pape, representing K. Hovnanian. I agree with what Vina said about the nature of the application and the waivers that are requested. I wonder if it's all right if the modification to the title block roll into the hearing and be a condition of approval, as inevitably there may be further changes to the plan that would require a resubmission. We've made one resubmission to address what I think were some of the more important changes. If that's okay with your planner, we can make that a condition of approval, because like I said, odds are the plans are going to have to be changed again, and we could add that to the title block when we make those more significant changes.
That's fine.
You're okay with it?
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
I just have a question.
Yes, Mr. Merwin.
So there's not going to be a residence on these, right?
No, this is it's part of a developed community. It's half of it's the recreational element for the community, and the other half is the detention basin. And I think the detention basin, under the prior approvals, I shouldn't say I think, I think it becomes the township's responsibility. So that's why we have to break this off. So the HOA keeps the recreation, and the basin, I think, goes to the township in this development.
All right, but there will be something in it that says this will not be for residential units?
No, yeah, no, that's
On the plan.
it's not what's part of the approvals. It's a basin and recreation.
I'm saying it'll be in the approval that it's not to be for residential units?
I believe this was a part of the cluster zoning, and this lot is already deed restricted for open space. So the previous approval would have that condition already, that it does not further be developed.
That's all, man. Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Okay. Mr. Schmidt? Mr. Schmidt. Roll call, please.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Romack?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenny?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Mr. Renner? Chairwoman Cannon?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Are we going to, should I stay right here? Are we going to the continuances or not?
Huh?
You can say we're going to do a couple other things, but you'll be the next one to call.
Yeah, let's just do this. Okay, we have the minutes of October 1st, 2019. Do I have an emotion to approve?
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Schmidt,
I'll second it.
seconded by Mr. Pink. Roll call, please.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Romack?
Yes.
Yeah, these are real resolutions. but
Oh, these
can
are the
go
res-
together.
yeah, okay.
Chairwoman Cannon?
Yes. Okay, we have some resolutions. 58-14P, Woodhaven Village, Section 3, preliminary and final subdivision with extended vesting. And I have roll call, please? Or I need a motion.
I'll move it.
Okay, moved by Mr. Lenning.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Romack?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenny?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Chairwoman Cannon?
Yes. Resolutions, application 04-19P, Lisa Real, minor subdivision with C variances. I have a motion.
I'll move it.
Moved by Mr. Schmidt. Seconded by Mr. Lanning. Roll call, please.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Mr. Voss?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Romack?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenny?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Chairwoman Cannon?
Yes. Resolution 24-19P, HMH Raritan Bay signs preliminary and final site plan with C variances. I have a motion.
I'll move it. I'd second.
By Mr. Lauer. Second.
I'd second.
Seconded by Mr. Abbas. Roll call.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Romack?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenny?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Chairwoman Cannon?
Yes. Okay, we have escrow deficiency resolutions. We can do them as a group. I'll just read them. 03-19P, Shannon Leo, $500. 05-19P, Woodhaven Village Phase 5, $4,500. And 14-19P, OBMUA Water Tower, $2,000. And XXX Village Supermarket pre-app, $100. So can I have a motion to approve that resolution? Moved by Mr. Lenning, seconded by Mr. Schmidt. Roll call, please.
Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Romack?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenny?
Yes.
Mr. Pink?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Chairwoman Cannon?
Yes. Okay, we have continuances. 38-18P, RD Management Corp. F, preliminary and final major site plan.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Again, Peter Clauser with the firm Halber and Pape on behalf of RD Management. This is Mr. Pape's application in our office, and we're requesting that the application be carried without the requirement of further notice or publication. But it's the board's pleasure.
Okay, so they're going to be on the December 3rd.
Yes. Yeah, they did make the request, and we checked, and the December 3rd date is available. There's only one other small item on that date.
Okay, if anyone is here for that application, it's not going to be heard tonight. It will be continued and heard on December 3rd.
Madam Chairperson,
Yes.
I will request, that we make notification. We had a very large crowd here last time.
Okay, yes, we would.
I'm not going to object to the board's request.
Okay, so there will be notification again given, but if any of you are here for that, you just know that it's going to be heard on the 3rd. of
We will
December.
publish and notice.
Okay, it will be republished and notice will be given.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, application 03-19P, Mount Hebron Cemetery, major site plan preliminary and final. Okay,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am George Doherty. Some of you may remember I was here a couple of times earlier on our review of waivers, and we're here again tonight. This is a continued hearing from one I think was scheduled for September 7th. I'm not positive of that date, but we're here on a continued basis, and I believe the secretary has dutifully submitted all of the notification information to the secretary within the time between the two meetings. So I will certify that we have complied with the notifications, including the newspaper.
yes.
And tonight, I will be less, I will be saying less than normal for these things because the application is kind of uncomplex. And I think you will recall from the review sessions pretty much what the profile is. But I do have with me the representative of the Bowler engineering firm who will speak to the issues. I will say as an overview that we've studied the very professional reports of your staff and your consultants, and we have no objections to any of the comments or requirements which would become part of the final approval if one is granted, and we're prepared to meet with them without trying to shave any substance off them. And again, your information tonight will be given summarily by Mr. Matt DeWitt, representing Bowler. We also have here, if the issues arise, a representative of the architectural firm who prepared the renderings and the elevations and the design of this addition to a small crematory that has existed on the grounds of Mount Hebron for many years now. If there's no further questions of me, I would like to proceed with calling Mr. DeWitt.
Okay, we'll just hear from your witness.
You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State and spell your name for the record,
Sure,
please.
it's Matthew DeWitt, DeWitt.
Thank you.
Just a few preliminary questions. Mr. DeWitt, are you an architect of the state of New Jersey?
I'm a licensed professional engineer. in
I'm
the state of
sorry,
New Jersey.
a licensed professional engineer. And you are representing the Bowler firm?
Correct.
Okay, and the Bowler firm did the engineering for this project?
We did.
All right. And could you give a summary to the board of the project? What is the project for which we're requesting the preliminary and final site plan approval?
Sure, so this is the existing Mount Hebron Cemetery at 549 Cheesequake, Morristown Road in Old Bridge. It's block 3231, lot 13. Square footage of the lot is 214,810 square feet, which is 4.93 acres. The existing cemetery has 3 buildings on site. There's a 1.5-story office building on the east side of the site. There's an existing crematory building, 1 story, and then also a mausoleum building. So there's 3 structures on site. Cemetery plots are on the west side of the site. Most of the rear of the site is a wooded lot, wooded surrounding. The proposal with this application is to construct a 1,848 square foot addition to the crematory building. So it'll be a new structure on the east side of the existing crematory building, still compliant with all zoning, bulk zoning criteria. I believe the only variation is the eastern setback will move from 59 feet to 25.3 feet, which is still compliant with the zoning. And the height of the structure is still under 30 feet so we're compliant in that regard. Floor area ratio for the site goes from .02 to .03, which is still compliant. And the landscape area ratio goes from .92 to .91, which is still compliant. As far as other improvements on the site, there are 3 parking spots on site. We're adding a 4th spot, which is going to be ADA compliant, just to bring it into code. And we're also providing underground dry wells for stormwater management to handle all the roof leaders coming from the new building, storing the rainwater underground as is existing. Under existing conditions, there are a series of stormwater management dry wells on site for the existing structures. So we're going to be mimicking that same management style for this new building.
Right. Have you encountered, in your review of the reports of the staff and the consulting firm for the township, have you encountered any notations, any remarks, any comments which you find interferes with the project and makes the project difficult to do?
No. We're able to work with the professionals and comply with their comments that they provided.
All right. You're not tonight seeking any relief from any of the comments or requirements that they've recommended?
That's correct.
That's all the questions I have, unless the board has any.
Okay, we'll just see if the professionals or the board has any questions. Lena, do you have any comments or
No.
questions?
No, it was just the landscape plan, so you will work with us to
Yes. I did see
finalize
that
the
comment.
landscape plan?
There was another comment, I believe, on lighting.
Yes.
Since most of the operation happens during the day, there's really not a need for site lighting. The existing crematory does have 2 lights above the doors, so we would be providing them as well. So the new building will have lights above the door, as the existing facility does.
Perfect. And I think the parking stall length is 18 feet. The ordinance requires 20 feet. So would you be seeking a waiver on that?
I believe we would.
Also, the aisle width, 24 is required. I believe it's a little short of 24. I would recommend that you ask for a waiver on that.
Yes, we'll ask for a waiver on that.
I think that's pretty much it on mine. The height of the building, proposed building, it wasn't specified on the architecturals, but probably that question is for the architect. That's pretty much it.
Okay, does anyone on the board have any questions? Yes, Mr. Maroon.
Does the property there moving on to wind up going into the EDO zone? And what zone is it in?
It
now?
is the EDO 3 zone, EDO 1.
EDO 1, correct. Okay.
Mr. Maroon.
You know, I didn't find anything wrong with this until he just said he's gonna take the water from the roof and put it into the ground. Just outside your property, we have a 100-year problem. All right, there seems to be an underground spring on the property of the crematorium and cemetery. And it comes out and it constantly freezes, breaks the road up. The county just went through an extensive attempt to correct it last summer. Not to much success. And now you're gonna add all this water into the ground. Maybe we could work towards getting that corrected before the,
You're talking about the issue at the road?
yeah, but, yeah. See, this is what happens. That's my area, and I know it very well. And the professionals don't seem to live in town, so they don't catch them things, but I did. And I don't know how much more of a problem is gonna exacerbate it if you add that. There definitely is a problem there. And if you were at the scene, you saw the problem. You know, if you didn't, it must have been a very dry day. Because even on dry days, it's wet, and the road breaks up, and it freezes, and
Mr. Roman, you're talking about at the access?
on Morristown Road, just, yeah, probably about 10 feet past the access.
Yeah, I mean, we can meet with the applicant engineer at the site and take a look at the area we're talking about.
Yeah.
If
I mean, otherwise, I mean, I don't have a problem with it, except that definitely is a problem, and if we can get it addressed, hey, that's a home run for us.
Yeah, and
Yeah, we'll work with,
we can work with them to evaluate that. Within the scope of their project, obviously, we can't ask them to start doing improvements to the county road.
Well, it's not the county road I'm looking for the improvement for, it's the water coming off of their property onto the county road that I'm looking for.
Look at that, and then, as far as the stormwater management system goes, our ordinance requires that the applicant mitigate runoff from any additional improvements. This isn't a major project as far as stormwater
Right.
management goes, because they're proposing less than a quarter acre impervious and less than an acre disturbance. But our ordinance actually has a requirement for minor projects that don't fall into that DEP criteria.
Okay.
They have to address stormwater, make sure they're mitigating runoff, and that's what the applicant is proposing to do with the dry wells, is to address our ordinance requirements. But if there's another way of achieving that, we'll certainly work it out.
I mean, believe me, we've had the water department out there, there's so much water that we think that it's water main break. They go out there, there's no water main break, you know, and, but it appears to be an underground spring, and it just comes right off of the property there. All right?
Okay, anyone else on this side have any questions? Yes.
I just asked Mr. DeWitt whether he could address the issue about the height of the roof. That was a question that was asked, and somebody suggested it should be the architect. We have the architect here, we could have him do it.
Okay, well, we're going to hear his testimony.
swear in.
I'm sorry?
Do you want to just have them swear?
One of the things I was going to ask this witness was, did you submit design drawings or documents on a flash drive for the board?
Sent via email. to-
All right, was sent. I don't know if it was received or not. We were requested to provide exhibits, and they came by way of an email to the board, but I'm not sure whether it was received.
Oh,
Damien, do you have the ability to pull up, to get access that system and pull up the emails that were sent in or not? The applicant says that they had sent to Dawn the exhibits by email.
Bina.
Or Davina, yeah.
There was a little confusion. The planning board secretary called out sick in the late afternoon, so we had to make quick arrangements for this meeting. We had the zoning officer cover the meeting, and probably that's why we missed on that. But I believe they were sent, yes.
Dawn did confirm that we received it. It took me a second. She did confirm that we received it, but I couldn't get them onto the jump drive to put them on for exhibits this evening.
Okay. So
We're sorry
so we
about that.
apologize for that, and you were expecting to be
Oh,
able to
you
use those?
have, he has drawings.
Was there anything in that you wanted to show that wasn't part of the packet that was submitted to the board? Was there anything different?
They're the same plans.
It's the same plans, okay. So the board has them in your packet. We just don't have them we usually put them up on the screens for the audience to see. So the board does have them.
All right, then at this point, I would call,
Maggots, no.
You don't have your,
Yeah,
Have any
why don't you
engineering?
just pass those out?
That's what's there, and this one's existing, and that one is proposed. I mean, it's a very, it's a utilitarian existing building, we're matching everything for the.
Okay, well, we want you to give your testimony on record, so, are there any other questions of the engineer? Okay, so do you want to put your,
and let me introduce
The
Mr.
architect,
Sam Butts, principal of Butts Warner.
okay, we just need to swear you in.
raise your hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Just state and spell your name for the record, please.
Sam Butts, B-U-T-Z.
Mr. Butts, you're the principal of Butts Wilburn Limited.
I am.
Okay. And are you familiar with this project?
I am.
Okay. Your firm is licensed in New Jersey?
Yes, we are.
And there was a question that we heard earlier, and you are the one to answer it. How high is the ceiling, or the roof, I should say?
Well, that's three different things, but it's a one-story building. The ridge is at 22 feet. The way the zoning code measures it is half of the truss, halfway up the truss, so that would be 18 feet. and the eaves are down at 14 feet. I mean, that's, you asked about the ceiling height inside, so
I
that's.
misspoke when I said ceiling, but
Yes.
I think you've answered the question. Does that clear it up?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else about the architecture that you think the board should be informed about?
Well, going through the questions that we had, I think the lighting was already answered. It's a very utilitarian building. The exterior lighting, I think we've got 2 exterior lights just by the doors, and really just because the code asks for it. There's no work that goes on outside, but people just need to get to the building when dawn or dusk kind of thing. The elevation was one, and then the last one was what are the doors, or what's that about? And really, the 2 larger roll-up doors or sectional doors, like your garage doors, are all about placing the crematory equipment after the building's built, because they're very heavy, so they get dropped with a bird crane, and then they're dollied in, and they need a 6-foot opening to get in. So that's what those doors are about.
I don't have any further questions, and I think if the board has them, this is a good time for it.
Hang on, you handed out materials which the board is looking at. Going to mark that as A1. Is there sort of a title to that?
In
Packet?
the bottom right-hand corner,
And how many pages was it, do you remember?
I think I gave you 4
4 pages, okay. A1, colored architectural drawings,
colored architectural drawings.
4 pages. Okay.
Okay, Bina, did you have any comments?
No further comments.
I don't have any further.
You don't have anything. Okay, does the board have any comments regarding the architecture? No. Okay, so the only issue seems to be this drainage thing, which you said you were going to work, your engineer's going to work with our staff people to see what,
I think the important thing is to find out what the source of the problem is with the water going onto the road. And I would hope it has nothing to do with the water that they're planning to put underground by the building, but we'll work that out. I mean, we don't want to invite a problem.
okay. All right, I'm just going to open to the public. Is there anyone here from the public that has any questions or comments or wants to ask any questions of the witnesses? Okay, seeing no hands, I'll close the public portion. Okay, do you want to?
This is an application for preliminary and final site plan approval with 2 waivers, one for the length of the parking stall, one for the aisle width. There's going to be a condition, the usual one, to comply with the professionals' reports and to also work with the board engineer and planner in the township to determine the source and hopefully address the water that's coming from the property onto the street.
I'll move it.
Okay, so do I have a motion? I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Mr.
I
Murray?
moved it.
Okay. Moved by Mr. Merwin, seconded by Mr. Lauer. Roll call, please.
Madam Chairwoman, I believe Mr. Luca arrived, I don't know if she heard the full hearings. Mr. Merwin?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Lenny? Yes. Mr. Page?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Kane?
Yes. Okay,
Thank you,
good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
and thank you, staff.
Are you ready to go, or you want me to wait? Okay. Application 19-19P, Maria Marquez, minor subdivision with C variance.
How recent is it?
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and board members. My name is Michael Steib. I'm an attorney with offices at 16 Cherry Tree Farm Road in Middletown Township. I represent the applicant in connection with this minor subdivision request. The property is block 24000.11, lot 22.14. It is presently developed with 2 single-family residential homes, a barn, and a driveway. It is a 128,665 square foot parcel in the R120 zone district. The applicant is proposing to subdivide this parcel into 2 lots, demolishing all of the existing structures and constructing 1 single-family residential home on each of the 2 subdivided lots. Proposed Lot A requires variances for lot area, 77,272 square feet, where 120,000 square feet are required. Lot B is going to be 51,393 square feet, where 120,000 square feet are required. Each of those parcels will also require variance for the units per acre. Lot A, 0.62 units per acre, where 0.3 units are permitted, and Lot B, 0.76 units per acre, where 0.3 units are permitted. I have 2 witnesses to present to the board this evening. First witness will be Shri Katawala, who is a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. He will review with you the subdivision design and layout and address any technical comments with respect to the reports of your engineer and planner. My second witness will be Andrew Janu, who is a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, who will address the variance issues, the positive and negative criteria for the variances that we're requesting. That having been said, if I may just go directly to Mr. Katwal and have him sworn and give his presentation.
Okay. He'll have to be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
Shri J. Kodawala, SHRI, last name Kotdawala.
Shri, can you give the board the benefit of your educational background and your licenses?
Yeah, I have a PhD degree in civil engineering from Kansas State University.
Is your mic on?
Sure.
Okay.
And since last 20 years, I do practice as a land use engineer in state of New Jersey.
And have you testified before zoning and planning boards in New Jersey?
Yes, I did.
On how many occasions?
At least 25 occasions.
And have you testified in this board, before this board previously?
Yes, I did.
And were you accepted your qualifications as a professional engineer in the state of New Jersey?
Yes.
I would then offer him at this
Okay,
time.
thank you.
Shri, can you tell the board what you did in preparation of this subdivision application?
Basically, this lot is, we know it's in the southwest corner of Old Bridge Township, all the way by Monroe Township. And this lot, I started working on it last year, like in December. We started working on it. I walked on site, did some investigation, and found out that we can subdivide this property into 2 lots because there are 2 existing homes on a site, and there are two structures. One is actually gone, that we can see the foundations, and there's another storage building. So there are 3 buildings exist on this site, and this site is being served by a recently connected sewer line on Arizona Drive, which is located along the easterly property line. And we have a water, gas, all the utilities are on the street. So we thought we would like to remove 2 homes and put a new 2 houses on the site.
And can you just give the board the background of the site characteristics, the lot size,
Yes.
whether or not there's any topographic issues with the lot or environmental concerns?
The site has like a moderate slopes, so it roughly drops about 10 feet from back to the front. Back to the front, but I would say like north to south. South is a Mechaponics Road. North is we have a wooded area. So, and this property has wetlands on the southwest corner along the Mechaponics brook. We have a brook there flowing from south to north. Basically, Mechaponics Brook is in a Raritan River. Mechaponics Brook is in it discharges water into Raritan River. So basically, we call it the Raritan River watershed. So we have a floodplain along that line as well as the wetland along the line. So what we did was we placed the new house more than 50 feet away from wetlands or the wetlands from the wetlands, yes, I would say. So we stay out. Yeah.
Now, with respect to wetlands, what is your experience in dealing with wetlands and wetland delineations?
Since 1997, I do wetland delineation. We go to DEP, we get the permits. But as far as we stay outside the wetlands and wetlands buffer, we don't need any further permitting.
And did you, in fact, create the delineation of the wetlands and the buffers that are shown on the plans before the board?
That's correct.
And has that actually been approved, or is that your delineation?
It's my delineation.
And what was done in order to ensure that the proposed improvements do not encroach into that area?
We kept it more than 50 feet away from the wetlands line. As well as we have FEMA has published the flood hazard area map. We call it a FEMA farm map, flood insurance rate map. And proposed houses are outside or the elevated above the shown floodplain elevations.
Okay. And what is the proposal for the improvement of this property?
Basically, most of the site is non-wooded, where we are proposing 2 houses. We are expecting to removal of about 17 trees when we put these 2 houses, and removal of all the existing structures. There is a septic system there old. We could not find it. My surveyor could not find it, but we are aware of the fact that we have to remove that system as per the NJAC 7:14, which is a septic rules, and applicant will remove that septic system if he gets the approval.
From an engineering perspective, is there anything about this proposed subdivision that presents difficulties in terms of either grading, stormwater management, or provision of services, water, sewer, and the like?
No, I don't see any problem. This project won't be called as a major project or major development under New Jersey stormwater management rules, because the new impervious coverage is less than a quarter acre. So henceforth, we will not need any stormwater management compliances from the stormwater management rules.
And you've had an opportunity to review the report of the board's engineering consultant,
Yes,
and that's dated October 23, 2019.
that's correct.
And the first page of that report is essentially informational, telling the board what the nature of the application is.
Yes.
And page 2 starts on a project summary, which again talks about what's going to happen to the property in terms of demolition of the existing structures and the creation of a new home on each new lot, should the board grant the subdivision.
That's correct.
The third page talks about the variances, which Mr. Janu will address, so I'm not going to have you address those.
Okay.
And then we get to the comments on page 4, starting at page 4. Have you reviewed the 23 comments that are set forth?
I have reviewed all of those.
And there was a request, in particular, comment number 2, to give some testimony regarding the existing dwellings. What's the circumstance with the existing dwellings?
I haven't entered into those 2 buildings, but the one of the house is like the house which is on the north. There are 2 homes. One house on the north, which is kind of like it's in a not a safe zone. We can't enter. So I think that house will be like any day it will fall apart. But the second house, which someone used to live there a few years back, but that house is intact. If someone has to do some repairs, they can utilize that house.
And with respect to, let me just go through the other comments on that page 4, comments 1 and comments 3 through 10.
Yeah.
Those are comments asking for some additional information to be added to the plans and providing some additional information. Are you able to comply with all of those technical comments?
Yes.
And with regard to comments 11 and 12, you've already indicated that we're requesting that this map and your delineation be accepted by the board at this time?
Yes.
Then going to page 5, starting off, it starts with 13, but going to 14, the question is whether or not this subdivision, if approved, would be perfected by deed or by map. And it's my understanding it's to be perfected by deed, is that correct?
That's correct, by land surveyor.
Okay. And the other comments, 13 and 15 through 23, again, address technical issues. Are there any specific issues that you need to address or that you can't comply with in terms of the requests of the board engineer.
No, we will be able to comply all of those comments.
Now, the board also received a report from the Bureau of Fire Prevention. Did you get to review that as well?
Yes, I do.
And there was a recommendation that the driveway widths be increased.
Yes.
Have you discussed that with the applicant, and can that be done?
No, applicant is ready to widen the driveway because we have a driveway in excess of 200 feet length. So one of the driveways is about 300 feet long, so the fire department wanted us to make driveway a little wider so they can cross the two vehicles. So we will not have a problem making driveways wider. Instead of 12 feet, we will make it 16 feet wide. 12 feet are proposed at this moment, but we'll make it 16.
And the other question that was raised by the fire marshal was with relationship to the access or availability for a fire hydrant.
Yeah, we have a fire hydrant right at the southeast corner or the intersection of Arizona Avenue and Mechaponix Road. So that hydrant is accessible, and I believe based on my experience with homes, that hydrant would be enough, or sorry, it's adequate for these two houses in case of fire. And if still I can meet with fire chief and see if he wants additional hydrant, we would not have a problem adding one.
All right, so from your perspective, are you familiar with what the standard is in terms of a distance for a fire hydrant to reach a property? Is there
No,
any standard that's followed?
I'm not aware of the standard, but I have like multiple times, whenever I have seen the fire engine, I talk to them, it's about 600 feet of hose they have. And our distance from house to the fire hydrant is about 250 to 300 feet.
All right, so it's your opinion that it's your assessment that an additional fire hydrant probably is not necessary, but you will work with the fire marshal in order to ensure that you get proper fire protection?
That's correct.
And you've agreed to widen the driveway?
Yes.
We'll make it 16 feet wide instead of 12. 16 was recommended minimum.
Yes.
So we can easily make it 16 feet instead of 12.
Mr. Hart, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, the 16 foot will be fine. The hydrant, yes, is on the corner of Metropolitan and Arizona. Could we move the driveway from the eastern home straight instead of having that big curve in it? Where it would be closer to the corner of Arizona, it would be a lot easier for the hose to go down the driveway?
Okay, yeah, we can make that straight.
Because your other one's pretty well straight,
That's correct.
so I wouldn't need another hydrant. That one is close enough.
Okay.
The trucks carry 1,000 feet of hose, just so you know. And that it's 400 feet in residential.
400 is a residential
Right,
requirement.
right. But at 16 feet will give us room to move the hose to the side, and the trucks could still get down the driveway. As long as we could get a mouth wider, you know, the entrance of the driveway,
Yeah.
so they could turn in. They're all going to be coming from the east. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We are prepared to comply with that
Okay.
request.
And are you responding to the planner's comments?
I think that is primarily for Mr. Janu to do. I think the things that are in the planner's letter that Mr. Katwala can respond to, we already actually covered with the engineer's letter.
Oh, okay.
So at this point in time, I would just want to finalize, and Shri, from an engineering perspective, do you find, or is it of your opinion, that this subdivision is properly designed from an engineering perspective?
Yeah, that's correct. Only one thing I would mention, which I should have done it, is the basement floor elevation. I made an assumption based on a soil survey, so that may change after I do a field log, might be plus minus 1 feet. So the elevation I'm proposing on my map, basement might go about 1 foot higher.
I have no further questions of this witness.
Okay, our engineer, do you have any?
I thank you, Madam Chair. I actually do have a couple of questions. Our report is dated October 23rd, and the applicant did go through our comments, but I just have a couple of quick questions. The subdivision plan is actually just a development plan. It's not a subdivision plan, right? Because you're not a licensed surveyor.
No, I'm not a licensed surveyor, yes.
So it should really just be a development plan, not a subdivision plan.
That's correct.
That can only be prepared by a surveyor.
Yes,
Okay. So, but you will submit a subdivision plan signed by a surveyor?
yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Just, most of our comments, a lot of our comments, I should say, were graphical and technical kind of comments. You know, we need to show that adjoining property, there's a strip of land. Based off the plan, it almost looks like this is a corner property, but it's not really a corner property. There's an odd-shaped lot that sort of surrounds it. That's the open space lot associated with Matchponics Estates. So that needs to, you know, be shown so that there's no confusion about that.
Okay.
The FEMA floodline, that's labeled as a FEMA floodline, you still need to get a flood hazard area verification from DEP for that.
That's correct.
Okay, and so you've assumed a 50-foot distance or so from that watercourse, but the flood hazard area verification will determine the actual validity of the flood hazard area and then also any riparian buffers associated with that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that'll be a condition of approval. Same thing with the wetlands, right? So
Yes.
you've delineated the wetlands, but you're waiting for the letter of interpretation from DEP, and that'll actually determine your buffer, right?
Correct.
And that should also be a condition of any approval that the board grants. I do have a question also regarding the separate dwellings. We're referring to them as two dwellings and all that. Not being familiar with the property, but just looking at it from an aerial, it almost just looks like you have a main dwelling and maybe some sort of a accessory structure, a house, like a guest house kind of structure. Are these two dwellings separately owned? How is, like, why are we referring to this? Because I imagine that that's going to be part of the planning testimony, that we should get this variance for lot size because it's two houses, and all we're doing is keeping two houses, so we're just making it cleaner with two lots. Can you shed some light on that, or maybe the planner or somebody can shed light on
Planner
that?
will talk about it, but I know that in a tax bill, it is taxed always as a two houses. The
Okay.
tax bill talks about the two dwellings,
Okay.
and that's the only thing I know that as far as the.
So you say tax bill is two houses, is it two separate owners?
No, it's just, see, sometimes when they assess the value, they write like what's,
Well, yeah, I mean, I would imagine if there's two buildings, it would be assessed with two buildings on the property.
yeah, two
because-
houses, that's how they have
Right.
it, so.
Were there two qualifiers associated with it?
I'm not aware of it, but it just says two dwellings, kind of. So altogether, there used to be 4 buildings, 2 houses, one like a storage building and another storage building. So one building is gone, only you can see the foundation. And there are 3 buildings exist on the site at this moment, 2 houses and 1 storage.
Okay. So, because that was my question as far as the actual dwellings go. And then with regard to the impervious coverage, your testimony was that you have less than a quarter acre of net increase in impervious cover and less than 1 acre of disturbance.
That's correct.
So what we would probably require, because, you know, what you show is 2 rectangles for the house.
Yes.
So we don't really know exactly what the houses are going to be at this point, I imagine, right?
It will be, usually the house footprint we show, it won't be the area more than what we have shown.
Okay.
So it will be less, but the configuration will not be exact rectangle.
Understood. So what we would probably require, or what I would recommend the board require, is an actual quantification, if the board acts favorably on the variance and everything, to actually quantify the existing impervious cover versus what you're proposing. And same thing with the disturbance, the disturbance is actually whatever the proposed disturbance is, 1 acre, and limit that per lot. So you'll need to actually specify, because what winds up happening with the subdivision is you're going to have to submit a individual plot plan, grading plan at the time of building permit, and by that point, I'm out of it, the board's out of it, and it's left to the construction office. So we need to actually quantify the impervious coverage per lot. So that if you exceed that, then you need to put in some mitigating measures.
Okay, yeah, we would be able to do it.
And then sewer, is that an existing sewer, is that what you said?
Yes.
So-
They were given a sewer connection when the Arizona Drive was built.
Okay.
So there is on our survey on sheet number 1, it shows a connection.
Okay,
So what we will be doing is for the second house, we will provide an easement so the sewer can be connected from this house, which is on the west, come to the
Okay.
Arizona Drive to
okay,
the
because
clean out.
the plan depicts it as a proposed kind of sewer, that's the reason why I'm,
No, the proposed sewer lateral, actually. It's not,
Okay.
it's not a new sewer line. Sewer line is there already.
well, in Arizona.
Any Arizona, but there's a clean out given for the house on the site.
Okay, so there's a clean out on where? Because it's not on the plan, that's the reason why I'm wondering.
If you look at the sheet number 1. Sewer clean out on Arizona Drive, just northeast from the house.
Oh, see, okay, clean out sewer,
Yeah.
there's something off of Arizona. So you'll be accessing onto that Matchaponix Estates property, is that?
Yeah, but
or-
that sewer lateral is already there, so we just,
Because it's not looking like it's in the same spot, that's the reason maybe I'm mistaken here, but it looks like you're going onto the Matchaponix Estates property to connect that, right?
that's correct.
And you have permission to do that?
I'm not aware of the easement detail, but I saw the existing sewer line, so I'm sure they have given some kind of easement, otherwise there won't be a sewer line there. Because this
Okay.
is recently built.
So
If
we do
not-
have a requirement in our checklist that existing easements and all that be submitted with
That's
the
correct.
application.
Yeah, so that will be our obligation to submit to you when we submit for engineering.
Would it be nice to have that beforehand, though?
Yes.
Okay, and then there's gonna have to be a sewer easement for proposed Lot A to cross through proposed Lot B, and we'll also need that prepared by the land surveyor and submitted to our
correct.
office.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay. Bina? No comment? Okay, anyone from the board?
Yes, I have a question.
Oh, Mr. Pink?
Trying to understand. I'm trying to understand. Are these going to be two separate addresses?
Yes.
Each home is going to have its own address?
Yes.
And are they going to split the land that's there now? Is it going to be split in half so each one is taxable, or is it going to be taxable under the whole?
No,
piece
it will
of
be
land?
two separate tax bill for 2 dwellings.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Mr.
Yeah.
Moore?
Question related to, do we have anything from Gary Lavallo for trees being removed? Any kind
And I'm
of, I
glad
see
you men-
preservation plan, but, yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Steve.
I think it should be a condition of approval that they work with the township forester to come up with a plan,
Yeah. At the-
replacement plan.
For these minor subdivisions, what we've done is at the time of building permit, they submit a more detailed plan that shows exactly what their building footprint is and exactly what trees they're going to be taking down. At that time, Gary does his calculation.
Mr. Lauer, did you have a question?
This is, zoning is going to be, it's an R20, a 120 zone right now?
That's correct.
Okay, so your lots are going to be smaller than required.
Required, yes.
Your existing cleanout on your sewer line, is that a 4-inch line?
Yes,
It is.
yes.
Are you sure you're going to be able to tie 2 separate dwellings into one 4-inch line without upgrading the service to Arizona Drive?
Typically, your question is good, and usually, as we always debate, like either to put 4-inch or 6-inch. But many of the times I've seen sewer authority, they tell us like, don't try to oversize it. So 4-inch can easily handle 2 homes. But
Yeah.
we would try to see that there is no sharing line between 2 homes. So I would like to design our sewer for the second home separately connecting at the clean out point. So we will not share any single length of pipe for
Well,
for 2 homes.
if you have one access off Arizona Avenue,
Yes.
you're eventually going to have to come into one line.
Or, I don't have the exact dimension of the easement we have. So if easement is wide enough, I can run a second parallel line. If easement is not wide enough.
That's what I
then-
think you'll
yes.
have to do, run a
Yeah,
separate
Yeah,
line.
and then if I can't do the separate line, we might create one bigger line, first 6 inches, and then we'll have a 4 inches line. So we will submit maps to the township engineer and show them like how we are configuring the sewer connection.
Okay,
And we'll comply with whatever the requirements they set up.
okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Moen?
Are we moving the driveway? Is the
Yes.
driveway being moved from what I'm looking at right now?
Yes, existing driveway will be
Okay, now, who's gonna own the driveway?
The individual. Both homes will have a separate driveway. There's no,
Well, if you're moving it, now you're moving it into one of these subdivided lots.
yes, basically,
Each one will have.
each one will have their own driveway and they have own liability to
Oh,
maintain
they're
it.
gonna have their own driveway.
The property line is,
I'm not seeing it, that's why.
The left house has its own coming right down the property line.
This one over on that side? All right.
All I want Bruce is on the right, and the neighbor has his own.
All right, and if you're not able to get the, damn, that's loud. If you're not able to get the easement for the second sewer, what are we gonna do?
if we cannot get the easement, we have as a backup plan is we can always do a septic field. Because we are in sewer service area, so we are entitled for a sewer connection, but if any engineering issue or some other issue stops us, we can always do a septic system.
Are you done, Mr. Morwood?
Yeah, that's it. They're not sharing the driveways was my biggest concern. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to ask, because in Venus' report, you do comment on the environmental constraints on the properties? Yes. But they still will be able to meet the...
Yes, and that's
usable-
what Rakesh already covered, the wetlands and the flood hazard line, so it's already covered in his testimony.
Okay, so they still have enough usable backyards,
They
front
still-
yard, side yard, so forth?
They still have to come back to us with those details, but when we look at the side yard and the rear yard, we measure them to the property line and not to the constraints.
All right, yes.
Hi, so I have two questions that I wanted to address. One is following up on what the engineer was discussing in terms of impervious surface for both lots.
Yes.
There's two things that kind of strike me about this. The existing driveway is 300 to 400 feet. What would the new driveway's length would be approximately similar?
It will be, length would be little, it's two houses is separate length. Approximately, we are about 300 feet length.
So 300 feet each. So essentially, the existing driveway is how long?
The existing driveway, I would say.
How long and how wide?
It's about 330 feet.
Okay.
It's very, the driveway is only about 8 feet wide.
Okay, so 330 feet, currently 8 feet wide. I understand we'd be widening to 16 feet to accommodate fire trucks.
Yes.
But essentially, we'd be more than doubling the impervious surface in this
That's-
area just through
that's
the
correct.
driveways.
Yes, so,
And that coupled with the tree removal on site, I'm not sure if I misheard 70 or 17?
17.
Okay, so just the amount of tree removal so close to a wetlands area, like a large source of essentially like water being
Yes.
sequestered, plus the impervious surface, those 2 points do have me concerned.
Yes, so usually, whenever we're going to remove 17 trees, I'm sure applicant will be forced to place new trees exchanging. So 17 trees were only just gone. We will be planting new trees.
I understand, but are they typically like staggered in terms of growth, or are they all just like planted at once? So you have like a
No.
static population coming up all at once?
Typically, most of the landscaping plan we do, it will be like 2 to 3 inch caliper plants, so they grow pretty decent. They have a good survival rate. And lately, everyone asks us to put like native trees rather than having like fancy trees, so they have a better survival rate.
Is there anything that would be preventing the driveways from going to Arizona?
We don't have an easement.
Oh, okay,
So first we tried, basically applicant wanted to connect to Arizona Drive, both homes.
okay, understood.
And we try to call them, try to send them an emails to see that if they can give us an easement. But
Okay.
we never heard anything from them.
Okay, because it seems as though if that is
That
an
will make
easement
it-
that could
yes.
be obtained, you have much shorter
Yeah,
driveways.
much
and-
shorter, plus it will look nicer.
And given you had mentioned that one of the structures on the property was just the foundation existing, so that would indicate to me either an older construction or something that has been
No,
let
it's,
go, or
it was a building there, but I think planner has a photograph which is 30-year-old. It shows all the 4
30 years
buildings.
old? Okay, I was just wondering if any of this like was
Yes,
historic or anything like that.
No.
Okay, those are my questions, thank you.
Mr. Schmidt?
What are the lot sizes in the surrounding area? You're going from a 120 to 77 and 51,000.
If we go on the north, Arizona Drive, everything is like 20,000 square feet or less. If we go on the south, also we have a subdivision, which is, most of these two subdivisions are a cluster. So they have squeezed the homes in a little area and left large area as a conservation. Those both homes are like, you can, at least I can see that about more than 30 or 40 homes are there, which is small than 20,000 square feet, existing homes.
Okay, do you have another witness?
Yes, I do, Andrew Janu.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
State and spell your name for the record, please.
It's Andrew Janu, Janiw, with Beacon Planning and Consulting Services, 315 Highway 34, Colts Neck, New Jersey.
Andrew, can you give the board the benefit of your education and your professional licenses?
Certainly. I have a bachelor's and master's degree in civil engineering from the New Jersey Institute of Technology. I'm a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey, as well as a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I'm currently serving as the planner for the Borough of Carteret, redevelopment planner for Keyport, South Amboy, redevelopment consultant
Okay,
for...
we'll accept your credentials. Thank you.
I have testified before this board before as well.
And what did you do in preparation for this meeting tonight? Did you visit the site?
Yes, we visited the site, we reviewed your master plan, subsequent reexaminations to your master plan, your ordinances. We also looked at the history of the site, which I'll get into a little bit in terms of how old the buildings are, the nature of the development that's occurred around the property. And we've, with all that, compiled the testimony points that I hope to present to you this evening.
And can you tell the board, describe the property in terms of its size and the current zoning?
Certainly. So the property is identified on your tax records as block 24,000.11, lot 22.14. It's situated within the R120 zone and contains 128,665 square feet, or just shy of 3 acres. The property is improved with 2 single-family dwellings. Both have been winterized at this point. There is a kind of a shed, barn, garage adjacent to the smaller home to the rear of the property, and a foundation for what appears to have been an older barn, which is brought down to foundation. And if you would, I have some aerials and photographs we can go to. Actually, probably one of the first things we should submit in that, and there was a question that came up while Shri was testifying, and I'll pass these out. What I have here is a copy of the tax card from the township. And this was actually just pulled from county records. And the reason I'm passing that out is you'll see at the top, at the property detail under building description, it describes the improvements as 2 houses on the property. Researching those 2 houses, the tax card in the upper right-hand corner indicates that they were built approximately 1945. We do have an aerial photograph from 1963 depicting the configuration largely similar to what we see today in terms of rooftops and foundations.
Mark that as A2.
So what I'm going to hold up initially
Before we do that, you started to talk about a 1963 aerial,
Yes, so.
and that's going to be A2, and can you just describe to the board where that photograph comes from?
Certainly. So, on A2, and I'll mark this A2. So, we, in reviewing this, we typically go to a website known as Historic Aerials. And Historic Aerials is a database that was acquired by ESRI, a company that maintains records and mapping historically. The photograph, in purchasing mapping from historic aerials, when we do a web search, we get something to this effect, which allows us to go through the years that are available for the property and determine the clarity, because some of the older photographs aren't that good. 1963 was actually a very clear photograph in terms of what was there. There wasn't a lot of vegetation on the site, so it's actually very clear to see what improvements were in place. So what's here is a 1963 aerial photograph that was acquired through the website of Historic Aerials.
What's it show you?
So, looking at the aerial, there is a lengthy driveway. You can kind of see the bend of Machaponix Road as to where we are. There's a lengthy driveway going to the back of the property. There is a home to the side, home to the rear, and then two rooftops that are associated, one associated with what's the foundation there, and the other is associated with a shed that's adjacent to the smaller home to the furthest to the rear of the property. We also have, and we'll mark this as A3, Mike?
3. Is that another aerial photograph?
This is a Google aerial, I'm sorry, this is a New Jersey GIS aerial, which I believe was, the date's not on here, but I believe this was a 2016-2017 flight. And it depicts essentially the configuration of the rooftops, substantially similar to what was in that 1963 aerial. This is something I can pass around if anybody would like to take a look. And, let's start. I'll explain the other photographs here. You mark this one? Yes, yes. Also on this board, to the left of the aerial, which I'll pass around, is a tax map. Our site is depicted here in yellow. There are two other subdivisions that are clearly depicted kind of adjacent to our site. There's Carriage Court, and these lots correctly identified by Shri as approximately 20,000 square feet. Then to the Arizona Court subdivision, these lots are closer to 30,000 square feet. And then further along Machaponix Road, there are lots that are fronting along Machaponix. The typical lot frontage there is about 100 feet. So those are about 100 by 300. So 20 to 30,000 square foot lots are essentially kind of the norm and the configuration, and you'll see our property in green outlined on that map. Below that are the two homes on the property. They have been winterized. They still have septic and well connections to them, but they are far from attractive. These are dated, 1940s style homes that need some, if they were to remain, they would need some aesthetic renovations, quite
What's the
frankly.
one on the left again?
What, is that an existing one?
These are the two, this is the
Oh.
larger existing home, which on the aerial you'll see to the right of the driveway, the rear home, which is here, and then the garage shed, which is this longer roof line here, and then there's a foundation to the side, which I do not have a photograph of. And flipping over, I'll mark this side A4. To give you a little neighborhood context, the upper left-hand corner ranch is a home that's located a little bit further to the east along Machaponix. So that's the nature of the housing that's along Machaponix. Those are those 100-foot frontage lots. This is the pump station directly across Arizona that we have a lateral that connects to us, and that literally is directly across Arizona. And then finally, below us, This is the subdivision to our north, subdivision to our south. These lots are a little bit larger than this, but this is essentially the nature and appearance of the neighborhood in our vicinity. So as you can see, these are newer homes. These are probably built within the last 15, 20 years. Very well maintained, very nicely kept. Actually, probably newer than that. I'm looking at the size of the trees. I'm guessing these are probably more in the 10 to 12 year range in age. But I'll pass these around as well so you can get a little bit of context. Thank you, sir. So what we have here is a large lot improved and operated over the years with multiple dwellings and multiple outbuildings, probably some type of operation in terms of a small farm or something at one point, from what it appears to have been a barn at one point. But the property is located in an area that's over the term redeveloped. Sewer has been brought into this area and creates an opportunity for improvement of this lot. Keeping in mind that this application, while creating two undersized lots, will still be occupied by two homes. There's a density variance that I'll talk to a little bit, because you do have a density requirement in terms of homes per acre. But the density already exists. What we're trying to do is to reconfigure that into something that is not only more attractive, but then can be subdivided, taxed individually, operated individually, and more conducive to home ownership, as opposed to a multi-dwelling situation on a single lot. So therefore, going to the type of relief we're looking for, proposed Lot A is being proposed with 77,252 square feet at a density of 0.62 units per acre, where 0.3 is permitted. Lot B is being proposed to be developed with 51,393 square feet and with a proposed density of 0.76. The current density on the property is, as you would guess, the mesh 0.68, where 0.3. So essentially, it's splitting between the two lots, but it's the same net density, if you will, for this lot that's proposed that exists currently. The application would need relief under the C criteria, because this is being done by nature of a minor subdivision, and there is an exemption for that under 4055 D70, I think it's paragraph D5, which permits that. I agree with your planner's characterization of the type of relief that's necessary. So we're here asking for that C variance relief for both the lot size and the density. Excuse me. In preparing this evening, I mentioned that I went through your master plan, and your master plan has over the years spoken specifically about this area. 1987, it specifically talked about protecting and preserving sensitive lands, and as well as developing residential development in neighborhoods that are capable of being developed to provide desirable, high-quality homes and an environment to live in. In 2011, the master plan element was re-examined, and there was a statement provided with respect to the R120 zone that over time, portions of the R120 zoning district have been developed more intensively, being served by public sewer and water supply. And that is in fact what occurred here. Is we've had water and sewer brought into it, and we saw opening up and clustering and single-family development at a little bit more intensity. In 2013, the re-examination portion on page 1, addressing this area, said the area in the southwestern portion of Old Bridge extending from Machaponix Road to the south of lands along both sides of Texas Road to the north, and from the Old Bridge Englishtown Road to east to Machaponix Brook to the west should be changed from R120 to R20 low-medium density residential zone to reflect the smaller residential lot development pattern that was constructed and is currently under construction in this area. So that speaks directly to this area. So in 2013, there was a recommendation to rezone this property to R20. Now, council didn't act on that. And then, once again, that was revisited in your 2017 reexamination, which was updated through 2019. And it didn't speak specifically to this area, but it addressed the R120 zone once again. And it indicated, I'll quote For R120 developments that are to be served by sewers, consideration should be made to require mandatory clustering of residential development on smaller lots with no increase in gross density beyond what is permitted. Requiring a mandatory cluster will disturb less environmentally sensitive lands and preserve more open space. A subdivision concept plan based on conventional R120 zoning without variances, design exceptions, or waivers should be prepared, determine a maximum lot yield. So it talks about subdivisions, talks about clustered houses based on R20 bulk criteria, and the land development ordinance should be revised for requiring mandatory clustering in the R120 zone. Furthermore, consideration should be given to permitting duplexes, townhouses, and flats in clusters, and the provision of no increased gross density beyond the lot yield of the R120 concept plan. So what that speaks to is recognizing the environmental constraints of the lot and not seeking to increase density. Well, in kind of a round and about way, that's exactly what we're accomplishing here. We have two homes. We have a lot area of about 3 acres with 2 homes on it. What we'd like to do is respect the environmental constraints we have. We do have certain critical areas in terms of floodplain and wetlands. We're respecting that. We're staying away from that. Yet we still meet the overall requirements for non-critical areas for the development. We also meet all the bulk criteria, not only in the R20 area, but in the R120, whereas we're respecting what the R120 zone would require with respect to light air open space, front yard, rear yard, side yard setbacks. The violations that we have in terms of the zoning are minimum lot size and the density. However, what we have is a single lot with 2 homes on it. What we're hoping to create is 2 lots in the same area with 2 homes that can then be individually owned, individually taxed, individually operated, and foster home ownership as opposed to the operation of multi-dwellings on a single lot. So that is the benefit. Understanding that the do-nothing option here is to renovate the homes, operate the property with the multiple dwellings, I would offer for this board's consideration that the proposal is a better zoning alternative in terms of how this would operate, how this would integrate. When you look at the area, this is a transitional corner, if you will, in terms of greater density all around it. And I think what's being proposed on lots that are well in excess of 1 acre here, adjacent to lots that are 20,000, 30,000 square feet, is appropriate, creates continuity for the neighborhood, and creates a better arrangement on the lots in terms of the management. Right now, we have those multiple buildings sharing a single driveway. We would be creating a safer approach for fire with 2 driveways of greater widths. We would be able to connect into the sewer that's now along Arizona, and I think it'd be a much cleaner operation. So the other point that we have to look at in balancing the C variance relief is what are we advancing in terms of purposes of zoning? And I'd offer to this board that we are providing adequate light, air, and open space. We are respecting all the setbacks, all the height requirements within your zoning ordinance. We are also promoting a desirable visual environment. What's going to be proposed will be more modern, will be a better arrangement, will be a better operation of the property that will still be improved with 2 single-family homes, as it has been recognized to operate since at least the 1940s. So the relief that's being offered to you is being offered under the balance test or the C2 criteria. And the burdens of proof for the C2 are that the application relates to a specific piece of property with a specific set of circumstances. And this is indeed a unique situation where we have these multiple structures and dwellings on a single lot. And the lot excuse me, is surrounded by more recent development which has been clustered or developed on smaller lots. That the purposes of the municipal land use law would be advanced by the deviation. I indicated to you 2 points that would be. And that the benefits of the deviation would outweigh any detriment. We also have to hit on the negative criteria that the variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good, and that the variance will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. I'd offer to you with respect to, on the balance of the starting with the negative criteria, what's being proposed here is not any more intense than how this property has historically operated. It will be a better organized property, it will be a safer operation of the property, but it's not going to create any additional noise, it's not going to create any additional trash, it's going to be developed with single-family homes as is intended here, and at a density that's pre-existed your R20 zoning, quite frankly, because it's a pre-existing non-conforming arrangement of the lot. The case that we reviewed that's essentially on point with this type of scenario is known as the Kaufman case. And Kaufman talked about better zoning being something that's comparable with the neighborhood and not having any outlier lots. And the Kaufman court opined that lots that are too big or too small for a neighborhood are both equally detrimental to the neighborhood character, that we should seek to harmonize the character of the neighborhood. And that's what we're trying to do, because we have a large lot with an odd arrangement of structures on there, and we'd like to repair that, make it something that's more consistent. Kaufman Court also gave us what I think a great piece of advice when adjudicating this kind of a case, and it reads, by definition, no C2 variance should be granted when merely the purposes of the owner will be advanced. The grant of approval must actually benefit the community in that it represents a better zoning alternative for the property. The focus of the C2 case will not be on the characteristics of land that, in light of current zoning requirements, create a hardship on the owner warranting a relaxation, but on the characteristics of the land that present an opportunity for improved zoning that will benefit the community. The benefit of permitting lot configurations that are consistent with neighborhood context is the creation of more harmonious lots, which should be seen as substantially outweighing any detriment. And Kaufman is on point with that, and this case is very much on point with that. What we're seeking to do is to harmonize the property with the neighborhood to create a better arrangement, a better zoning alternative, if you will. I've said that home, but that's an important concept in the Kaufman case. And with respect to the detriments, what we are creating is not a lot that will be taxed by the development. These are in excess of 1 acre. One of the lots will be pretty close to 2 acres, in fact, and at a density that is already existing and absorbed by this lot. We're going to honor all the critical areas on the lot. We're not going to disturb, and I believe it's going to be indicated it'll be a condition that we comply with all the flood regulations and the wetlands regulations in terms of staying away from that. We're going to create 2 separate driveways adequate for fire equipment to access the property. We will have a public sewer connection to the property, no longer requiring septic system working, and the lots will be accessed and very much in conformance with what we see along Machaponix Road and the Arizona Road and subdivision across the street. So when we look and apply the balance test, I think this is a good application. I think it's a better alternative to what exists and to trying to make what exists work. And I'd ask the board for your consideration in terms of creating this subdivision with these new homes in this neighborhood.
I have no follow-up.
Okay. Do our professionals have any comment?
I agree with the planner's testimony. I don't have any further questions.
I actually don't have any questions or comments for the planner's testimony. One thing I do want to mention or discuss real quick is Mr. Hart had requested that the driveway be straight, I guess, for Lot B. What I would probably suggest is flipping the house and having the driveways, along that common line. Not a common driveway, but just 2 driveways along that common line, because the proximity to Arizona wouldn't allow you to do a straight driveway on that side. Okay.
Okay. Anyone from the board?
Yes. We just got to go back to the last meeting. When is enough enough? This happens to be the 1-year anniversary of the sale of this property. So it was quite evident that the intent was to subdivide this property upon purchase. As much work has gone into it. All right? This is a rural area. I'd listened to with great, anticipation of your all the positives. This is a rural area. It was designed to be a 120 area for a reason. We had some environmental constraints out there, and the people that live out there kind of like their rural area. The positive of putting 2 new houses out there when it's surrounded by all these older homes, not the new development. This is on Machaponix Road. This is an older rural area. You know, that is what those people want out there. I'm lost there for a second. I had the thought and I missed it. It's just, we're taking this lot and breaking it down and now putting two houses. Again, now last meeting it was an R5. This one's an R20. But when does enough become enough? When do, you know, last month it was, oh, well, it's only one house. Well, here we are, the next meeting, now it's two houses. Maybe the next meeting it'll be three. By the end of the year, we have 12 new houses that, and technically shouldn't even have been there.
Mr. Warren, I was here actually at the last meeting testifying on behalf of the hospital, if you recall. However, the distinction between that application and this application is this property is already improved with two homes.
This property has two structures on it, all right? That date back to all the zoning and building laws that were ever in this town, all right? So when they came, if they would come before the zoning and building department, they'd only be entitled to one. They wouldn't get two. You know that and I know that.
Under today's scenario.
You know, I mean.
All right, we're not going to have an argument.
No. I mean, and that's what it comes down to. When is enough enough?
Okay, you
All
made
right,
your point.
thank you.
All right, anybody else on the board have any comment? No? Okay. I understand what Mr. Merwin is saying, and when I first looked at it, I had some of the same concerns just for the environmental aspect, but it does seem that the area around there has been subdivided. I mean, it's cluster zoning, so the number of homes is in tune with the zoning, but it is the smaller lots with more open space. So I don't know that it's that much out of character with that particular area. Anyway, we need to open it up to the public. Does anyone from the public have any comments, questions? Nope. Okay, we'll close the public portion. And no one else from the board has any comments? All right, do you want to read the?
Sure, did you want to sum up? Or
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we'll rest.
Okay, so it's an application for subdivision to two lots. They have two variances, one's for lot area and one is for density. They have agreed to comply with, as usual, the comments in the board engineers and planners reports. We did highlight some of those, which include receiving formal delineations from DEP. They're going to comply with the fire report. We'll straighten the driveway. We'll add another hydrant if required. And the latest suggestion to perhaps flip the driveways so that the two driveways would be on the center line, the new center line, not near the corner. And that they would comply with the tree replacement plan at the time of submitting building permits. They also need to show the existing easement for the sewer line and to provide appropriate easements and legal descriptions for any new sewer line that's put across and for how they're going to configure that easement across the two different lots. And comply with any of the OBMUA's requirements regarding the sewers. It's the major ones.
That's it. Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Okay, moved by Mr. Schmidt. Is there a second? Okay, Mr. Lauer, seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Merwin?
No.
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Matt?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Money?
Yes.
Mr. Fink?
Yes.
Mr. Luca?
Yes, but I would just like to say that in addressing the testimony that you provided regarding Kaufman, I think in this instance it is an awkward lot. I just would like to speak to the fact that I don't necessarily think that having multiple structures on a single property is necessarily a bad thing, especially given multi-generational living. and kind of the trend kind of away from what 10 to 12 years ago saw towards people looking for accessory structures for family members. So while I do agree with this, it's with the understanding that, like, I don't think that blanket statements can be made.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your attention and.
Before we adjourn, I just want to say that Kate this is her last meeting with us. She's moving away from Old Bridge. And we're going to miss you very much, because you've been a wonderful board member. We wish you the very best, so.
Just wanted to take a minute, too, to sincerely thank everybody on the board, as well as those within the planning department and our professionals. I appreciate that you extended consideration to a member of the public. I've learned a ton, and I've incredibly enjoyed serving on this board. I'll miss it very much.
Okay, well, wish you the best. Thank you. Okay, the meeting is adjourned